Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated in loving memory of Vanessa God's mother, Diana Cohen, Liluni Shmat Diana Bat Sophie Charles, sponsored by Vanessa and Joe God. That is an extra special deluxe breakfast for an extra special deluxe person. We wish a Ilui Nishama to her, B'Shmish Mekedem, and we know that Minas Shamayim, she's very, very proud of her daughter and her grandchildren and how far they've come and how much they've achieved in this world. B'ruhaniyut u'b'gashmiyut. You should continue to make her proud. Year of Breakfast in the Class, dedicated in loving memory of Nishmat Ruth Orfali Bat Adela, sponsored by her family. Also, Breakfast in the Class, dedicated in loving memory of Nurit Roshan Zamir, Lilu Nishmat Nurit Nushafarin Bat Hanon Yehuda, sponsored by Asher Roshan Zamir. Also dedicated in loving memory in Lilu Nishmat Suleiman Shlomo Ben Harun Vedolati Al Shalom Suleiman Shlomo Ben Harun, sponsored by Parham Natanzi Zaku Baruch. Also dedicated for the complete refuah shlema of Rabbi Shlomo Farhi Fortuné and the continued health of Chana Batzima Fega. The learning for this week is dedicated by the Torah Center Diamond donors. Loving memory of Nishmat Salman Murciano's mother, Felicia Bat Miriam Murciano, by the entire Murciano family. We also would like to wish a Mazal Tov and Mabruk to the Podolsky and Harosh family on the beautiful Brit Milah Be'ezrat Hashem that's going to take place very soon. You don't see me often wearing a tie in the morning if I don't have to during the week. Only for special occasions do I put the noose on. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should celebrate many, many beautiful occasions together. All those that need to have children and Brit Milahs and Shalom Nekevas, they should have many happy and healthy children. Those looking for Shidduchim should find their Zivug and Nasib. Those looking for Parnasah should find their wherewithal as well. Let us begin. Our parasha contains within it the sequence called the Birkat Yaakov, the blessings of Yaakov Avinu, where he blesses each and every one of his children. I want to zone in and zoom into one of the berachot and to take a look at this beracha together at this blessing together with you. The pasuk says that Yaakov Avinu blessed Yehuda with a special blessing called, and the language of the pasuk is Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda. The staff, the ruling staff, should not depart from Yehuda. And we've discussed this specific concept that kingship belongs in the tribe of Judah. We discussed it with regards to the aftermath of the Chashmonaim after achieving such great miraculous victory for the Jewish people in battle. They then turned their hand to becoming the kings of Am Yisrael, and because the Chashmonaim are not from the tribe of Yehuda, ultimately the family winds up getting wiped out. In fact, Ramban explains that was their sin, and that was why ultimately they wound up not surviving. So we have a pasuk that says explicitly, "Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda," that the rulership can never leave the tribe of Yehuda. Now, it sounds at first glance that this is something which is relevant only to Yehuda, to tell Yehuda and his children that kingship belongs to them, but also to tell all those that are not from the tribe of Yehuda that they're not allowed to become the king. Now, Mark is saying very clearly, don't get any ideas. On career day, that's not an option for 11/12 of the children, okay? So that might be the first way you look at this concept of Lo Yasur Shevet Yehuda. However, I believe that there's a deeper and more universal expression of this concept. Our rabbis explain that the idea of Melucha, of Malchut, is not only related to being a king. The idea of being a Melech is not something that only speaks to people who wear crowns and long robes. The famous line, not all heroes wear capes. Well, not all kings wear robes. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea. In the straightforward language of kingship for Yehudah, the Chachamim explain that there was a reason why Yehudah got to become the king. And what was the reason why Yehudah earned kingship? It wasn't by virtue of some form of birthright. Yehudah was neither the firstborn of his father, which was Reuven, nor the firstborn of his mother, which would have been from the tribes of Yehudah, of Leah, Reuven, and from the line of Rachel, Yosef. So why does Yehudah become the king? So there's something very special about Yehudah that our rabbis explained to us was his merit to receive this great honor, and that is Yehudah ata yoducha achecha. Your brothers will thank you, but also pay homage to you. What is it that Yehudah does? The Chachamim explain that the nature of Yehudah is actually hidden in his very name. Yehudah achieves two things. Number one, he is someone who is the essence of being grateful. His mother names him Yehudah. Why? Because hapa'am ode'et Hashem, that after having those three children, which at least done by the numbers, with 4 imahot married to Yaakov Avinu and 12 shivatim, each one was due 3. When she got the 4th one, that 4th child, what did it represent? It represented more than her share. So Leah gave gratitude to God. She calls the child Yehudah, which means to say thanks, because she's received more than her share. That's one element of the name of Yehudah. The second element of the name of Yehudah is that Yehudah admits. He admits that he did wrong. When does Yehudah admit that he's done wrong? Tamar. With Tamar, excellent. When it comes to Tamar, she says to him, Hakirna, recognize these objects. To whom they belong, am I pregnant? Yehudah, in a moment of great embarrassment, in a moment of great humiliation, takes responsibility and admits that he's done wrong. So Yehudah also means to admit. There's one other example of Yehudah also admitting that he did wrong. Anyone know where? When Yehudah says in Parashat Vayechi, he says, Bi Adoni. Bi Adoni means, it is in me, my master. The Chachamim explain that the expression of Yehudah was communicating the fact that he said to Yosef, which he understood was, he was talking to a much higher authority and power than Yosef. He was saying, B, all of this, Adoni, is on me, is my fault. I'll sit in prison instead of Benjamin. You know why? Because in the story of Yosef, who was the one that said, throw him in the pit? I did. Now, even though Yehudah's expression, what was his expression? They want to kill him. What does Yehudah say? Save him. Now, but he doesn't save him all the way. He saves him partially. Reuven, it says about Reuven, that Reuven wanted to go back and save him and bring him back to his father. It does not say that about Yehudah. So Yehudah does not want to go all the way and fix the situation, but at least he wants to make it better. So why is Yehudah taking responsibility? So I want to share a couple ideas that I believe are critical in the concept of Milucha, of kingship. The first is, the king needs to learn to be grateful for what he has. Almost always, when a person achieves a certain level of power, it makes them desire more power. If you ever doubted this, go to the airport. Find some dib who was lucky enough to be granted a jacket that reflects light. And suddenly, you're dealing with a guy who's on the biggest ego trip. What's his job? Stand here, stand there. What's your job? Type something in the computer. Print out your boarding pass. The level of attitude that you get. Excuse me, ma'am. Yes, so nicely. Which line? Don't you know how to read? Says over there, bag drop. Yeah, I know, but the machines also say bag drop. And you know where else it says bag drop? Down on the other side. And I'm not sure about my ticket, which is why I asked you. To be clear, it's also why you have a job. If everything was so clear, you wouldn't need to be wearing that jacket that's making you feel so high and mighty. I remember once I was walking and there are two lines, and you could be on either one. One line was shorter. I have a family, I have a flight to catch. So, out of the two random lines, both open, I didn't undo the item, go underneath, cut people off, pretend I belonged to some club that I was in Clear or TSA Pre when I wasn't. There were two lanes, both available, and I chose to go in one. And the woman comes running over. Where do you think you're going? I think I'm going in this lane, the one that I'm in. Quite clear which choice I've made. You stand over here. You want to tell me to stand in this line, no problem. But to make it sound like I just committed an act of high treason, to make it sound like I'm an evil human being because I went in one unmarked lane over another unmarked lane, when generally that's how lines work, you choose the shorter one, is unbelievable abuse of power. But my friends, it's not only at the airport, it's everywhere. Have power, want more. What does the Gemara say about a person who has a little bit of money? Ohev kesef, lo yisba kesef. You love money, you'll never get full of it. It will never satisfy you. Lo yisba kesef. What does the Gemara say? Not just the pasuk. The Gemara says, Yesh lo maneh, rotze matayim. You have 100, you want 2. So a king is a person who has power, and he has money, and he has kavod. Do you ever saw a guy say, oh, this is I had just the right amount of kavod. I'm good, this is exactly how much I need. You ever see a guy, look at kavod like it was on a plate? I'm trying to cut down. Trying to watch how much kavod I eat. No one says that. The king has all 3 of these things. They are dangerously, there's a great word in English. We have an Englishman here who's with us. I don't know, do you know how some words in certain cultures, in certain language, you just can't accurately translate into another language? And it's nice words and not such nice words. They're difficult to transport, right? One to the other. How do you communicate that something is hadid? Very hard. It's good. No, it's not good. Hadid is sweet. No, not. Right? When you say someone's adami, go explain that, but properly. Fine is not enough. Fine is not enough for me, at least for me. Hajeh translates as enough. But it is so much more than enough. It's like enough if enough would stab you.
It's enough on steroids.
It's enough. So a lot of words don't translate. There's a great English word. It's called Moorish. No one here who's American knows what I'm talking about. What does Moorish mean? You never heard that one? Go back home and ask. I'm not telling you to go back home to ask, but when you go back home, to be clear. The best example I have in American culture of Moorish, Mechila, is Pringles. Has there ever been a person in the history of the world that ate one Pringle? Never. What's the advertisement for Pringles? Once you pop, you can't stop. That's what Moorish means. Morish means it's a type of food that if you have a little, you can't just have a little. Right? American, it's not. No one ever uses it here. Yeah, Professor Google, it might be English. Pushing it off on us. Right? I'll give you an example. Yeah? The difference between foods. Right? Is it possible to have one machshi? Yes. Find me a guy who has one yabra. I posit the guy's a serial killer. Yabra always comes in two. Machshi in one. Weird, right? But that's how it is. You ever see a guy have one kak? Majnun ada. Right, so Moorish means there's certain things that it's impossible to have a little. What are those things? Top three that a king has. Kavod, power, and money. So the most important thing for a king to have, therefore, is gratitude. Because gratitude is the answer to those things. Baruch Hashem, you know, I'm a very well-respected man. I'm so grateful that I have a good name in the community. I see other people that no one pays attention to. So the antidote to kavod, the antidote to money, and the antidote to power and control is to feel like you have enough of it. If you have that, you could be a melech. If you don't have that, 100% of the time, you know what being melech will make you? It will turn you into a megalomaniac. Power in the hands of a humble person is used for the good. Power in the hands of a vain person is always used in the wrong way for self-serving purposes. So the pasuk is telling us, Lo yasur shevet mi Yehudah. Only Yehuda could have this. The second translation of the word Yehuda, not from the word thanks, not from the word modeh of gratitude, but rather from the word, right, to admit something that was done. Umodeh ve'ozev Yerucham. Who misses Rosh Hashanah? Umodeh ve'ozev Yerucham. Modeh means to admit. Because Yehuda admitted that he did something wrong with Tamar. He admitted, Bi Adoni, he did something wrong. But my friends, there's two different types of people that admit. You have a person in court who's caught dead to rights. There's witnesses, there's CCTV footage, camera. They have the guy 1,000%. What is the only reason why this guy is admitting his guilt? You know what they say? The 11th commandment is, thou shalt not get caught. Once a person got caught, they know everything. The guy wants to admit because he thinks that giving a guilty plea will get him off of something. And oftentimes the court, in order to not have to go through the whole process, they'll throw you a bone because you said you were guilty. Yehuda is not that case. He chooses to be guilty. She says hakirna. He realizes that she's not going to throw him under the bus. Our rabbis say that Tamar was such a tzaddiket that if Yehuda did not fess up, she was willing to be burned at the stake. She was willing to accept the death penalty that the court was going to give her, not to turn him in. In fact, the Gemara learns from that, mutav, better for a person to throw himself in kivshan ha'esh, to a furnace of fire. Va'al yalbin peneh havero berabim, and he should not whiten his friend's face, humiliate, embarrass his friend in public. Who do we learn it from? From Tamar. So we see Tamar was ready to let Yehuda get away with it. Yehuda doesn't just accept guilt. He chooses to profess it. Bi Adoni. Yosef does not know that it's Yehudah's fault. But Yehudah owns it. If we are in this trouble with you because of what went wrong with Yosef, that we listened to his cries and we didn't let him go, then all of this, whose fault is it? Me. Now, can I just say, in mob psychology, you have 11 brothers who are like, kill him, kill him, kill him. Is it Yehudah's fault? If I was Yehudah, if you were Yehudah, well, if someone told you it was your fault, what would you say? Are you kidding me? My fault? He should be kissing my toes. You have a bunch of people gathered together in a company. The board. They gang up, they vote, they decide that they're going to demote the CEO. Afterwards, the CEO comes to you and says, well, listen, I lost my job now. I blame you. Could you imagine this conversation? You turn around to the CEO and you say, are you joking? Everybody in that room, not only did they want you, not only did they want to strip you of your title as CEO, they wanted to fire you completely, throw you out of the company. You know the only person in that room who fought to keep you? Me. You're going to blame me? That's what Yehudah should have been saying to himself. Bi Adoni, what are you talking about? They all wanted to kill him. If the problem here is that we didn't have mercy, of all the brothers, I was the only one that had mercy. Maybe besides for Reuven, but he wasn't there at the time. I've often thought also that Reuven perhaps was not subject to the influence of the brothers because he wasn't there. B'sako b'tanito, he was somewhere else. Yehudah was with the brothers and he stood up to them. But that is the nature of a melech. The melech is able to accept responsibility and not say, well, I made it better. It's true, I didn't do everything wrong. It's true, it wasn't only me. You see, there are two answers that people give when it comes to admitting fault. One is, it wasn't my fault. Everybody wanted. That's answer number one. They blame it on everyone around them, because they also had a part. Or maybe, right? The second thing is that if they minimize, but they didn't eliminate, then they don't consider that to be their fault at all. Yehudah's greatness in responsibility taking involve absolving everybody else. Because if I was in the room, I should have carried the day. And if I was in the room, I shouldn't have minimized evil. I should have stopped it completely. That's the greatness of Yehudah's responsibility taking. And that's why he's the king. Because for a king, the buck stops only with you. So have you learned how to accept that kind of responsibility? My friends, as we started, this idea is not only relevant to a king in a robe and a king in a crown. It's relevant to every single person. Everybody in this life gets to choose to live the life of a king or a slave. A king is a person who is in charge of their own decisions. No one can tell him. You can't vote down the king with a committee. The king decides one way or the other. He decides. The king decides how things go. And when the country fails under his leadership, whose fault is it? Only his, the king. My friends, the question a person wants to ask themselves is, am I a king? Oh, this person, that person, the influence. If I would have been given this, if I would have had that, if I would have had opportunity. You know what a king does if they don't have the opportunity? Melech poretz lo geder. Anyone know what that law means? That means if the king wants to walk from 63rd, okay, down to 62nd. Let's say the king, like me, is also going to the Brit Milah and Fifth Avenue Synagogue. He doesn't walk around the corner. He walks through. Right through the middle of the block. There's a fence there. His guys knock it down. Melech poretz lo geder. He knocks down the fences. When a king looks and says, oh, you know, it was really an impossible. There's nothing that's impossible. You're the king. I don't have a rabbi. There's no Gemara class in the right time. Are you a servant or are you a king? Go figure it out. Go make it happen. It's on you. Oh, well, my wife, she's being difficult. It's very hard. This is on you, not on her, on you. That's how a king lives his life. That the buck for everything stops with him. So Yehudah, who is the king of Am Yisrael, he's not only a king in a robe and a crown, he represents the midah of Malchut that is accessible for all the Jews. Every Jew has access to all of the midot of the Shifteka. So what do you want to be in your life? Do you want to be a melech? If you want to be a melech, there's two responsibilities, there's two conditions. Number one is absolute responsibility over everything. Number one. You don't blame anybody else. And also, even when you did half of the job, you don't say, I did half of the job. You accept the responsibility for the other half of the job that you didn't get done. But my friends, you know what allows a person to have that level of responsibility in his life? To take that level of ownership is when they have the first name of Yehudah, when they have gratitude. When a person feels like I don't have, and I didn't get, and I don't have opportunity, and I'm not smart enough, and I'm not blessed with with the right upbringing, and I don't have the connections. They spend their whole life feeling sorry for themselves. But a person who lives a life of gratitude thinks to themselves, you joking? Well, I only have one leg? Some people have no legs. You know how lucky I am? Oftentimes, we as able-bodied, lucky human beings, healthy human beings, people who have homes to go home to, people who have money in the bank, maybe not as much as you'd like, maybe not for the vacation that you want, but you have enough, you're living, you have food in your stomach, you have enough ability to go to the doctor, you have health insurance, maybe not the best one. When a person feels like they have in this life, then they believe that they can take agency in this life. So, in every scenario where you take one more thing away, a true Yehudah who's still grateful says to himself, it might be that I don't have A, but I have B. And I can succeed with B. And if I have B as an option, then B can make A. I don't have the charm or the magnetism of that guy in the office. You know, I don't have his ability to be able to walk into a room with that charisma, right? That dynamism, take it over. I don't have that ability. I can't do it. I don't have what he has. Can't compete. I'm not going to go for the promotion because if he's here, what am I? Yeah, but you know what you have? This guy who was born with that charisma, you know what that meant to him his whole life? He never needed to work hard for anything. My work ethic, I see your charisma and I raise it a work ethic. I'll outwork you. I'll prepare. So when you're up there saying fancy things, being a great salesman like you are, and the boss asks you for brass tacks, what's the nature of the deal? What's the number? What's the spread? Where's the possibility for profit? And you won't have an answer. I'll be there waiting. With every answer to every question. That guy's smarter. Yeah, but he won't work as hard as I will. For every A that you don't have, you have a B to make up for it. And since that's the case, a person who has gratitude, who recognizes the things in their life that make them lucky, is capable of becoming that person who accepts responsibility and uses what they have against what they don't, and becomes a king in their life. Lo yasur shevet mi Yehudah. There's one condition. It doesn't say that shevet, the ruling scepter, is given to Yehuda. Let's look at that pasuk one more time, and we end with this. It says lo yasur shevet mi Yehudah. The ruling scepter does not get taken from Judah. Before Yehuda is king, before David HaMelech is king, we have a king that comes not from the tribe of Yehuda. Who is that? Shaul HaMelech. Comes from the tribe of Benjamin. How could it be? And it's not like he seized kingship. Shemuel HaNavi, he crowned him king. By name, by word of God. I thought lo yasur shevet mi Yehudah. The answer is that's true. Once Yehuda has it. It doesn't say that the ruling scepter is only given to Yehuda. It says the ruling scepter is not taken away from Yehuda. Okay, you could look at that and think, wow, that's an interesting thing in the history of kings. Or you could recognize that it's a truism for all kings. Honey, no one's making you a king. No one's giving you the ruling scepter. Even if you're a person who's grateful and you're a person who takes responsibility. You'll only be a king if you take it yourself. If you go out and grab it. But once you've taken that, lo yasur, it doesn't leave. So long as you stay the same person. But if you stop being Yehuda, then it gets taken away. Lo yasur shevet mi Yehuda. You find people like this who come to a new country with nothing. They're happy and grateful for every single thing that they have on the Lower East Side, in rat-infested tenement housing. Right? That's where our grandparents were when they came from Halab. When they came from Poland and Russia, where'd they go? Ellis Island, to the worst places to live on the Lower East Side. But they were so happy. You know why? Because they didn't have heat, and they didn't have central air conditioning, and they had an icebox and not a refrigerator. And even though they had a degree as a doctor in Poland, they were selling shoes on the street of the Lower East Side, but their lives were filled with gratitude. You know why? Because no one was running after them on Delancey Street trying to throw them in a gas chamber. Because no one was treating them like a second-class citizen, dehemi, like they were in Syria or in Lebanon or in Iraq or Iran. They were so grateful. And what did they do with that gratitude? I'll quote my great-grandfather when he came here from the fires of Germany. And he moved to South Bend, Indiana. And the article is in the newspaper. And they offered him all sorts of programs from the government. And he had $4 in his pocket. And he said, "Thank you very much, America. I don't want any of your money. I'm so filled with gratitude that I can make my own way and make my own destiny. Because I have the freedom to do so." That gratitude, what did it do? It gave birth to responsibility and ownership. And he rebuilt his life himself. The ones that came here with gripes and were not grateful for anything, who did they believe deserves and is supposed to support them and give them everything? Still today, many of those people have not accepted any ownership over their own lives. And they want the government to pay for everything for them. Lack of gratitude, lack of ownership and responsibility. And you're not a melech. Hashem should bless us in every area of our life to use these tools to become melachim. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.